Okay. All right. So,
All right, so Ehven Ezra 26,
yeah.
Sif Aleph, the B'chaber Ramah, just quickly in English, just to review. So a woman is not considered to be married except by way of betrothal in which kosher betrothal was done appropriately. As I like to say, Kadash Moshe Yisrael, as we say.
Right.
So, however, if he were to lie with her in a way of, by way of, and the way they translate it here is by way of harlotry, meaning without the name of betrothal, that a stam lying together carnally, as others might put it,
Yeah.
it is nothing towards her status as being a married woman. It doesn't make her a Eshes Ish. Even if he's together with her with the intent of marriage, he has in mind, I'm doing this because I want to be married to her. And they both agree, it's consensual. She's not considered as his wife, even if she is, she dedicates herself to him, says, I'm going to be totally monogamous. I'm a one man woman. Rather, the opposite is true, that she's not designated for him, and actually the Bezdin has to force him to send her away from his home.
Right. And then
That's no
the
problem.
the
So
the
then
uh the Chalkas Mechaike commented on the Chalkas Mechaike commented that this that we're talking about is the Kadesha, or the, I guess, like harlot, almost. That's something like that. I don't know. I have to look into
there's
this
really
thing, but basically that's talked about in the Torah that gets lashes. But the Raiva doesn't like that, because he says if that's the case, if just one instance, right, then why
Haezer
is it
condition.
that somebody who that it's we know the seducer, he pays a fine? Because if this is the Kadesha that's talking about in the Torah, then he would get whipped. You can't get whipped and get the fine. You don't get the, if there's a
The
rule, if
rabbinic
it's two
punishments,
punishments,
right?
you get the more stringent one, and but the lenient one you don't get. So rather, the Ravid says that the Kadesha, right, like the harlot, that's somebody who makes herself free to all people, as opposed to that
One
she's
woman,
mono,
monogamous.
yeah, as opposed to monogamy without the proper betrothal. And um yeah, so that's fine. So he said, wait a second. So how do we know that an available what's it called, is, so maybe there's no problem at all. She's not married. What's the problem here? So being that we know that the Beis Din of David, they made a decree about being secluded with a single girl. So obviously we know that there is a prohibition of being with a single girl, albeit it is according, it's a rabbinical prohibition, at least according to the Ravid, who holds that, because well, according to the Rambam, it would be from the Torah, because that's the Kadesha. But according to the Ravid, no, that would be from the rabbis. Um, and the Beis Shmuel comments that on the fact that even if we said that if he has relations, right, without a proper betrothal, but even if they had in mind that they're doing it to be married, so he uses the term "beinay leveina," between him and between her, to mean that they did it silently. Meaning, what's the difference here? Because hang on a second, you can betroth through relations. That's one of the ways you can that a betrothal is valid, right? So what's the difference here? The difference is there that it has to be known, like we know now, how, like we discussed the last time, how we leave them in the new couple in the yichud room for the amount that technically they will be able to have relations. Um,
It's the baseball is it's very much in the style of Chassidus. It's all about Gilui.
yeah, it's about
Yediyah
relations.
is
Yeah,
what's Yediyah if there's no Gilui? If you don't have a proper hasaga, if you can't go zeh with your finger, say
right,
zeh. It's not
right,
Gilui.
right,
If it's not Gilui, what's it worth? I want
right.
Gilui.
And his point is, even though generally we have witnesses, at the time of, I mean, obviously the witnesses aren't watching them have relations, but we have witnesses during the time of relations that watch them go into the room together. And even now, the witnesses first go and they tell the witnesses, okay, there's no way to get out of this room. That means if they came out of this room, they have to come out this door, right? Like,
no one else
right,
is
no one can
sneaking
go
in.
in, nobody can go out,
They're
right?
not going out. Right. We'll see
So he
them if they go
says,
out.
that even if there were not witnesses, but that he got married to her and it's known to everybody, it's the same. It's the same as witnesses. So here it must be talking about that they did it secretly, and then of course that's where the Ramaz thing comes in that we say, wait a second, why did you do it secretly? All right, the Ramah, right there.
So now that he jumps on to, even if they're both consensually focused on doing this for marriage, has to be sent off. He jumps in and says because for sure she would be considered an embarrassment for toiveling in the mikveh, and she's going to be too embarrassed to go to the mikveh because there wasn't a proper chuppah, and then he's going to end up sleeping with her when she's in Nida, and that's illegal. However, if she dedicates herself exclusively for him as his wife, and then she goes taka to mikveh, there are those who would say that then okay, so it's allowed. She's like a pelegish, like the Torah talks about a pelegish. This is
Like
the unksuba. This is you're talking about a woman who's exclusive to a man
but he's not
without a ksuba,
right. Yeah,
without kiddushin, and without a ksuba. Even though I remember learning elsewhere, I think one of the talks, there is some sort of contract of that he takes responsibility for her, but I think that's more
right.
like after whatever. The main concept of pelegish is a person,
Basically, she's employed but without a severance package,
right? So,
something like that.
something like that. He's getting responsibility, but yeah, there's no it's like a difference
Right.
between a 1099 and a W-2, I taking responsibility for benefits, etc. You
Right.
know. So but so that's when you're shaming him. Then there's another shaming. There are those who say that no, this is usher, so much so that they should both get whipped, both get lashes from the Torah, lashes from the Raisa, not just the Rabban an extra patch, excuse me, but the Raisa lashes because they've transgressed Lycia Kadesha.
Right. Like you
Don't
said
be a
before,
hoe.
that was the Rambam, and that holds that.
Right. So that's that Yeshe. There's a Yeshe in there. It's the Rambam that the first bring up.
Which means
Um,
basically the Ramah is presenting us the fact that there's one opinion that it's midrabanan and one opinion that it's
anyways.
deraisa, basically.
Well, excuse me. Yeah, but he's saying so much the Rabbana that it would be allowed.
No, but that's only if the one
Yeah, it's
case
exclusive, and you know
if
that
one
she went to
case if she
mikveh.
tabled, right? And
Right.
that's the fine line there.
Right.
But if you didn't know she tabled,
That's the condition if
no,
you know that she went to stable, right?
yeah,
Okay, so then the Rama goes on and says, "Bechlal." Okay, so a little more examples that kind of show us the details of how this kind of works. A kuti who marries a kutis, which we understood it to mean just someone, basically someone who's not a yid, and a mumar who marries a memeres, meaning someone who's not from or a heretic, but someone
right.
who doesn't live the ways of a yid.
Which I'm assuming means
So
that they never got a condition.
yeah, so that means, and in their customs, meaning their non-Torah customs, means that there's not doing a kedushin, and then they come back and they can and the person who's not a yid becomes a yid, they convert, or the mumar and memeres they become bal tshuva, they want to follow halacha afterwards. You have basically two couples who were not going the way of halacha for either because they didn't have to or because their choices, but either way they come and now are starting to keep halacha. So we're not concerned that there was some kedushin beforehand and you know and that it no because he's able to send her out without a get because
Right.
even though they lived together for many years, the relationship is not considered anything except for znus. It's just two people sleeping together.
Right.
Um, and as you'll see later in Halacha
And this is
149.6.
this is actually a very practical piece of knowledge because this is not completely uncommon. Let's say you have a Jewish boy and a Jewish girl that are dating in college. They're not religious.
Yeah,
They're not married. They don't need a get. They don't.
it's actually someone I know, Bali Tshuva, who triplets, and they all became from in Berkeley. and I'm pretty sure the situation is their father's not a was not a yid.
Right.
And I remember they had their parents over for Pesach, Sidarim, and they all became from and for years. And just yesterday we have a little Berkeley chat of like the Shulchan families that all grew up together, Welton, Ferris, and Feld. There was posted pictures of the wedding of the parents. As the father was finally Megayer and was totally a frum yid, a nice big beard. And not only that, but one of the sons wrote the tefillin that his
Oh,
father
really?
and then he wrote the tefillin and then put those tefillin on his father for his father's first putting on of tefillin. And it's
Right.
beautiful. He's talking about parents, talking about a couple who are in they're seven, they're older than my parents. They must be in their mid, maybe almost late 70s or something.
Yeah.
And mamish, and a beautiful video of the triplets all arm in arm dancing for their parents and Pasha, yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Like, but yeah, it doesn't matter. They
Right.
they were
So yeah,
they were a couple, a secularly married couple for
right.
decades.
Right.
Pasha, like
Right. No, yeah.
their kids are in their like 40s, you know.
Right.
But
And they got to get right. They got to not. They got to get a proper solution.
we got married, and
Yeah.
they put on tefillin for the first time. It's beautiful.
So now we said that the Ramah says, right, that there's some say that it's Usr and they get Malchus on it, like you said, the Das Rambam and the Tur. Medivre, it says the Chelkas Mechekik base. Medivre Harash Vatur le Mashma Shia Isur Bepilagish. In the words of the Rosh and the Tur, it doesn't sound like there would be any sort of if we say it's a pelagish, it doesn't sound like there would be any prohibition and such. There's no
Wouldn't
prohibition
be
of
anything wrong with doing
the
this as a
concubine, right?
pilegesh.
There's no well, it's not it's not illegal. You haven't transgressed anything. Rak pegam mishpacha v'heder covered. Just it's like a flaw in the family,
Blemish and
and meaning it's not an honorable thing. You bring you bring dishonor to your family.
a stain on the family
Yeah, on the
name.
family name. Yeah, ilu. Oh yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, the ilu. Yeah,
Yeah,
but lab
beloved.
the loyalty kedesha. Because if there was a prohibition that was transgressed of Laiti Kadesha, don't be a harlot, then the Beis Din would be required would be required to just to how do you
Let him
call
up.
it to put their foot down on this. They'd be
Oh, yeah,
required to
put
take
pressure.
action to force them,
Right.
right? Umali isur nidashi bekaris umali isur kadesha. Hava deiraisa. What's the difference, right? That the first case we said.
Right. We're only worried
What
if
are we
she didn't go
worried
to
about? We're
mikvah
worried about she's
that
gonna
he
be a
might
nida.
there might
And
what about
what's
Loisia Kadesha? That's not a worry. That's
what's
also
the difference? Don't be a kadesha.
it's also the
They're
Raisa.
both these are there's a concept that the punishment of a thing is not always have to do with the severity exactly.
It's also
Meaning a Torah prohibition is a Torah prohibition. There's no we don't draw a thing. Oh, this is a worse
like
Torah
Pirkei Avos.
prohibition, a better Torah prohibition. Rather, the punishment that's just what your soul needs to be repaired from this.
Right.
This one's a biblical prohibition. This one's a biblical prohibition.
I think it's also especially when you're talking about when the Bezdin should get involved. When the Bezdin chooses to get involved in people's personal matters, yeah, I think that when it's Deiraisa, doesn't matter.
Right,
How about
right,
Deiraisa? Like that's when
right. Right.
we
This is
get
a
involved.
biblical prohibition. This is a biblical prohibition.
It's like, okay, fine. I
So
see
we can't
somebody,
even say, oh well, one's biblical, one's rabbinical, and therefore the basin wouldn't get doesn't get involved.
right. I
Um,
have to say it's something that
yeah,
when we teach Chazan classes, like it's something that they say that we should teach what's Deiraisa and Rabbanan, but make sure we stress that l'chachila, of course, the way we behave, treat them both the same. Shouldn't matter.
right,
The only thing where it matters is to know, okay, here I have a shaila for the Rav. And then the
right,
Rav might be able to, okay, in maybe certain situations,
Right.
maybe whatchamacallit. So again, it comes to like, okay, how do we deal? But let the Maisa when it's
Right.
the
And
day
Gam Divi
Daisa.
Rambam, even from the Rambam in Mashmash, Ye Malkus Bepi Legish, Am Yuchedesh Li Sechad. He says, wait, even according to the Rambam, it's not implied there that there would be lashes with a with a concubine who is exclusive to one man. The hakasa because it's written. Any man who has relations with a woman in the name of what was the term used before was a good one.
Harlotry.
It was a different term used, which is forget what it
Um,
was. So we'll have to look at the recording later. um, so that he's that they get lashes. So mashma, so it implies when she's exclusive to him in the name
I think
of marriage.
I used the
Alpha
word
even
carnal.
without carnal, that was it.
So in the name of
It's great.
carnality, I don't know if that's a word.
Okay, carnal is like what's it called?
It's really like
It's
physical. Gosh,
a more millennial term. It's like every
right.
video game is called the phrase carnal this and
Well,
carnal
I think
that.
it's also a
Something to
carnal. Literally, a carnal desire means specifically just a physical gosh mystic
right,
desire, as
right,
opposed
without
to
any intention
harlotry, meaning like I'm making a
of this.
business out of this. I'm being
Right,
some. I'm
right.
just. I no
Meaning
interest in it being
not l'shem issues without the idea of the unity of a man and a woman
right. I'm just trying
of
to
being
take
of
care of my
living
physical
in a
needs.
unified state. Yeah,
What I think also to the other way,
right,
saying harlotry, a prostitute, there's a whole like mindset that I'm going into sex work, and there's a whole mindset of of what comes behind that. I think
right,
carnality was this. It's not always so far. It could just be the person's just thinking, I'm viewed as I just want to take care of my sexual needs. I just want to
right,
be a physical, gosh, mystic,
right,
person for here. Maybe be animalistic, so to speak.
right,
And the point is that we're more than that. We're not just animals. We'll just go and do whatever.
right. So, and the laws of kings, he only says there that a simple a regular person is he says is prohibited in a to have a concubine. But he writes just that it's prohibited. He doesn't write that you get lashes, which implies that it's a rabbinical prohibition, not so basically what he's doing here is all these things we're talking about. He's splitting it into some categories here, so we understand what we're talking about. That there's a man who takes a con there's a man who sleeps with a woman, right? But it's not like a one time thing or whatever. It's that she's exclusive to him, and she goes to the mikveh, but they don't have kedushin. This is called a pilegish. That's one category. According to the Rambam, only a king is supposed to have a concubine. A regular person shouldn't have a concubine. At the same time, it's definitely not a biblical prohibition. It's not the same thing that it says Laisia Kadesha. Laisia Kadesha is a carnal relationship. It's a relationship like harlotry that he just just for pleasure. So that's the biblical prohibition of Laisia Kadesha. Now there's another thing of this, which is the same thing like the concubine, but he did it in secret, and that's a problem because we worry that since they were doing it in secret, that listen, she would have been embarrassed to go to the mikveh. Why? Because obviously that would have given up the game.
Right.
And so what we worry about is, but it's not a matter of that we're worried about that she's a concubine and therefore that's our problem. Our problem is that she's impure. She didn't go to the mikveh, and this is a biblical prohibition. So that's that. That problem. So that's what he does. He splits it into those different categories over there. Says the Beis Shmuel on the same part of the Mechaber, and some say that it's prohibited, and they get lashes on this because of the Loisi Kadesha. Af al gava ba'al akum in leikim min atayda. Even though somebody who sleeps with a non-Jew does not get lashes according to Torah, like we spoke last time. That doesn't mean that it's not more severe, and in many places it talks about the fact that it's actually. There's also the Sichas of the Rebbe that talk about it's in fact it's
Even Rashi,
you're breaking
even
down the
Rashi,
Havdalah ben Kedesh ben Kedesh l'chel ben Yisrael Amim, the
even
separation
Rashi,
between the Jewish people and the nations,
Rashi
breaking
brings
that
up.
down. Yeah,
I think go back to the first episode. Yosef and Potiphar's wife.
right.
Rashi comments on the double lashon of sleep with me, lie with me. That it means
Right.
sleep with me in this world, you'll be with me in the world to come. Meaning that when a yid sleeps with someone who's not a yid, they lose their chelik and el. That's a
Right.
heavy, heavy
Right.
thing.
Now, which explains why there's no punishment down here.
Right, because it's
Because
like
what's
one of those
people think of
pares or
punishment,
whatever.
of like, oh, that's it, you did that, now we hate you, we punish you. No, we love you, it's you can't have this
Nothing we can do for you.
flaw, but in that case, right? So it's fine. We give you lashes now. You're good. You're a tzaddik again. And
I want to say quickly a quick story on this that I think about a lot when that basically it's if I'm trying to remember, I think it was Rabbi Tzvi, and he was traveling. There's a whole thing where he discovers that these people in this small town, this group of random, seemingly nobodies, is a large group of hidden tzaddikim. So he goes to spy on them, and he climbs a tree, and so he's able to look into the attic window because the whole thing is spending time with them, and they keep going up to the attic, the whole group of them for like a while. And he goes and he sees Taka, all these like simple looking hobo looking dudes. They're wearing like all white and they're holy, and he basically falls off the tree limb and crashes through the window. And it's clear that he discovered them, and so he's like, "Okay, you're here. We're busted. Whatever." So he stays for the rest of their learning and holy davening and learning. And then whatever, he goes about his day. And then something like a day or two later, a whole bunch of the king's soldiers come to town and they pick him off the street for seemingly no reason. Um, definitely some racial profiling situation going on.
yeah,
And they proceed to beat him. And they beat him bad to the point where even everyone in the town
I mean,
stops watching.
not the stereotype, but Zusha probably looked pretty Jewish. So
Yeah, he's a pretty Jew looking dude. And they beat him badly. They beat him basically to the point where everyone in the town even stopped watching. They didn't even watch the local beating because it was just too pitiful to
too
watch.
much.
And they beat him within an inch of his life. And then no one else is looking, and he's like barely still alive. If I remember, it was Zusha. It may have been someone else. But the point is, they beat this
It does
this
sound like
tzaddik,
Zusha though.
tzaddik to within an inch of his life. And the guy lifts the helmet, the soldier helmet, and it's the group. It's the group of hidden tzaddikim. And they basically tell him, because you discovered us, Bezdin Shamayla said you were
You're
chayiv
dying.
misa, and you were going to die. And we realized the only way to save you was to beat you within an inch of your life. It would be considered as close enough, and now we can nurse you back to health, and you'll be able to survive. So it's like this thing
Right.
where
So this is another.
we're pushing
In other words,
the beating.
the concept of punishment
Right.
is
Well,
right.
so
It's not. It's
it was
not.
what's punishment? It's it's
It's
it's
not
the
right.
medicine. It's the
Right.
stinging antiseptic that
Well, I
it
mean,
burns so
look at
bad.
it's like I mean, think of chemotherapy,
That's what I mean. Yeah, the burning so bad. I was gonna say with regards to certain
wreaks
cuts, certain
havoc on the body.
antiseptics, certain
Yeah.
antiseptics. When you pour the thing on the wound, it hurts more than the wound itself. It's like,
Yeah.
ow, that hurts more than the cut.
Right.
The thing is, it's saving from infection that would cause the
Right. It's
person to
gonna.
lose
Yeah.
the whole limb, if not
Yeah.
chas
And it's in a
v'shalom
lot of things. Yeah.
more. You know. So yeah, even though the pain might feel worse than but that's what it's all
right.
for. It's for healing. It's always for healing. If there's nothing more, it's like, I'm sorry, there's nothing more we can do for you. You're
Right.
on your own. Chas v'shalom, the person gets cutters. That's it. Right.
Yeah. So back to our sugya.
I mean, like even not there because yeah,
The fact that a Jew who has relations with
non-Jew.
with a non-Jew doesn't get lashes is not because of its lack of stringency, but perhaps because of its great stringency. That lashes are
Severity.
not
It's more
it's not going to
severe.
help you, right? I'm it's like I'm going to give you I'm going to give you Benadryl for a heart attack. You know what I'm saying? So.
Right. I'll say one more. Whatchamacallit. Sometimes,
By the
yeah,
way, there is a tshuva, there is tshuva for it. In fact, we know the story, the guy who, what's it called, he did tshuva, and then he found, and then all of a sudden somebody came in and said, oh, I got shipped or something, or
right. The
his
life he had created was gone. Wiped
yeah,
clean. The Abishter, it was all good. But
his wife and his kids, they drowned something, whatever.
I'll say one more. One more.
That's not a fun tshuva though.
Right. It's not ideal. But one I think the perspective to like it's like the difference between let's say if Chas v'shalom, a child disappoints their parent, or let's say now we're married, we disappoint our spouse or whatever. What's worse is when the other person yells at me. Okay, I know they still care about me. When they don't even yell,
Right, so when
when there's just a disappointment of
it's when she won't
ugh,
talk to you, you know you got a problem.
that's when you're in deep trouble. Deep trouble. You're not even worth yelling at. You're not even worth
Right.
oive. It's when I know I really. That's when he
Right, when
knew
you
he
yelled
really
at me and I
messed
said,
up.
okay, I'm sorry. Okay, fine. So then that's it. And not just that's it. By the way, that's in line with Tshuva also, because not just he yelled at you and I said, I'm okay, I'm sorry. It means I'm gonna think about it to get good and long before I do it again.
Right, right. All right, so Kamash goes to Sidon Simon
Anyway,
Tesva Tezayin.
yeah. V'chein habo al hashifcha. And so too, one who sleeps with the slave girl, a slave woman,
Maidservant. No?
maidservant. I know, but now that you say maidservant, it's like no, nobody's really sure what that is.
Also, but that's what
We
I'm
don't really, we
wondering.
don't really have so many maidservants nowadays.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is there was Shifcha and not like Eved, Canaan. Well, that would have been a man,
No, a
but
shifra is right, but it's
I guess that's what we're
we just
talking
talking
about.
about a non-Jewish maidservant here. There's slightly different rules and certain things with them.
Because they're partially converted.
We don't the different prohibited things are not similar one. We don't they're not similar one to the other. It's all by decree. Mashakosov Magid Perikal Vilchasishis. Miu Mashakosov Lakin Bikvi Legesh Ein Mochrach Kimosh. Now, right, so he says in those cases that you don't they don't get lashes. However, that he seems to be saying that by a concubine you get lashes. This is not lav dafka, not necessarily so. As I will explain. So this Merino Rav Yosef Mitrani in writes in the beginning of Kedushin that the Rambam Airi Kishihi Mizumenes Liznus Ozi Kadesha. What's the Rambam talking about? The Rambam is talking about when she is, how do you say mizomenes, like she's set aside, so to speak. She's this is what for harlotry. So then she is a kadesha, which is this biblical prohibition that the Torah talks about. V'chein kosa b'kes of Mishnah Seif Perek-Beis Hilchos Naira Besula. Because the Mishnah writes this as well. Gam Ramban b'tshuva Ramban b'tshuva kosav k'shi pilegesh leiko isa l'das Rambam afilu lehedyet. So interesting because the Ramban writes even more so than what, because if you remember the according to Chalkas Mechekik, that he said that by a hedyot, by a non-royal person, a regular person, there's a prohibition of concubine, but he just doesn't get lashes. According to the Ramban, he says that even for a regular person, there's not even a prohibition. This is according to his how do you say, a girsa, his version of the book.
Version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the print that he had. That in his print it didn't say, like which what we said in the Chagas Mecheki before, that to not a king it's prohibited. So by the Ramban, his copy didn't say that. But even according to our print, Sham there, the cost of a Rambam the Heditaser, right, which like the Chalk Mecheki brought, then in our print it says that to a regular person a concubine is prohibited. Mikol Makim ein Rayish Shalokin al Pilegish. Still, there's no, like the Chalk Mecheki said, there's no, he doesn't say that you get lashes. He just says you shouldn't do it. Umeharosh Vatur, and from the Rosh Natur neither the Lake Isur Klal. And it seems that the Rosh Natur would hold that there's no prohibition at all in a pilegish, in a concubine. Rather, like we said before, right, in the Ramah, that the problem is not that there's any issue with the pilegish at all, right? Rather, just our problem is that because they did it secretively, we're afraid she didn't go to the mikveh, and she's impure, which is a whole separate biblical prohibition. And that which the Agamesha writes, that the Rosh Natur hold that that a concubine is prohibited. The Hainu Mishkasav Atur b'Shem Chuvas Harosh the Asura. And Shlomo the Tur writes in the name of the Rosh that she is prohibited. Aval in Rayim Misham, there's no proof from there. Why? Kisham also Mishum de Busha Litbel Ubala Benida. Again, like we said before, right? So this that the Ramah is talking about, that she's that the Tur and the Rosh hold that there's an issue. That's not because of that a concubine is prohibited. No, according to them, a concubine is completely permitted. Rather, like he said, it's just we're because they did it secretively. We have a problem that she wouldn't have gone to the mikveh, because then people would have found out about it, and we're afraid that they're having a relationship with when she's impure. But as far as any sort of prohibition regarding a concubine, it would seem that they would hold that it's allowed, it's permitted, right? As the Chalkis Mechekik said, that it's not it brings how do you say it, a stain on the family name, but it's not but there's no prohibition actually there. And there is proof he's going to bring now from the words of the Rosh, proof to how he's viewing how the Rosh Natur hold. From what the Rosh says in the beginning of Ksuvis, the Leica is Pilagish, that there's no prohibition by a concubine Sharikosav, meaning that's not what the Rosh writes. He's writing V'yesharayim divrei harosh the lake is Pilagish. There is a proof from the words of the Rosh that he taka holds that there's no prohibition about regarding a concubine. Why shari kosav sham the yachalakayim prove rupi Pilagish? Because he writes that you're able to fulfill your mitzvah of pruavu, of be fruitful and multiply, of having children with a concubine. I'm assuming his reasoning here is ein mitzvah ba al yedei aveda, that you can't do a mitzvah through an aveda, and your mitzvah doesn't count. So in this case, the fact that the Rosh is saying that you can fulfill your mitzvah of having children with a concubine would show that there must not be a prohibition there. Gam Mashahevin Bach Mitzvah Sarosh Shekosa. They also what the Bach understood from the Tshuva Sarosh Shekosav b'nei mishpachto yechelim limchis lazeh demiyachi la'azim pelegish. That it says there that her family can put a stop to this. That he is making her exclusive to him as a concubine. Why? But that's not because there's a prohibition. Remember, like we said before, the Beis Din doesn't do anything. Here we're saying the family can do something. Why? It's not because there's a prohibition. If there's a prohibition, the Beis Din would do it. This is for a different reason. It's because the pegam lahem shetiya pelagshay. It's a stain on their family name that their daughter or their sister or whatever should be his concubine. It cheapens their family name. The bushahu machmasa iser, that there the Bach writes, why is it a stain on the family name? Because it's an embarrassment because of the prohibition. Velesa, and this is not so. Because the embarrassment has nothing to do with the prohibition. Rather, what's the embarrassment? It's the fact that a concubine is cheaper than a wife. A concubine has less value than a wife, and therefore, the fact that they took her only as a concubine implies that she's not fitting to be his wife. And that cheapens their families. It cheapens their families' name, their value. And therefore, it has to be like this. Like I'm saying, like he's saying, right? That there's no prohibition, that the Rosh and the Torah don't hold any prohibition of concubine, but rather it's just a stain on the family name. The imishum ishal pelagish kasha, because if there would be a prohibition of a concubine, this would be hard. This whole sugi doesn't line up. Talmud leimar, because so how do you say Talmud leimar? So it comes out. You see from here. Without the fact that the family is how do you say, they're makbid, they're particular, they take offense. If not for the fact the family takes offense. Then the Beis Din would have had, for example, what's the case he's talking about? He's talking about the family interjects. Wait a second. If there was an Isser, then the Beis Din would have had to interject. And furthermore, it seems that also according to the Torah, there's no prohibition of a concubine. But rather that which he says, that the Beis Din forces him to take her out of his house. That's like we said before. It's not because there's a problem with luggage, but rather because we fear that she's embarrassed to go to the mikveh. which creates a whole separate, unrelated biblical prohibition. Venishma mikolhani, and so it implies from all this, it comes out from all of this, from all these days, the ain like not pelegish, that according to everybody, you don't get lashes for a concubine. Afilu ha'isur ein mevor behedya. And even even the fact that it's a prohibition at all to anybody, even to a non-king, is not it's not clear. If you'll say, hang on a second, how can you possibly hold that there's no prohibition with a concubine? And we've already established that what? That a bride without a bracha, right? Meaning that we didn't do the bracha under the chuppah, right? What's the first bracha? Is right? And so that we say that without the bracha, it's a bride is prohibited just as if she was impure and didn't go to the mikveh. And after all, is a concubine is without a bracha and without kiddushin, without betrothal. V'gam kosher ich muteres lamelech, and if that's the case, not only to a regular person, it's a question how is she even permitted to a king? After all, a king still has to follow the halachis.
Right.
So on this, the Ramban already answered. This is specifically when he wants to marry a woman, that she should be acquired to him for all things, and that she should be prohibited upon any other person. So then the Torah says that he has to betroth her and bring her onto a chuppah and bless the 7 brachas. I will pilegesh ein tzarich bracha v'kiddushin, but this does not apply by a concubine. So in short, and this is both the Chalutz and Mechayk and Beishmol discussing this thing, is what we're talking about is by a concubine. So for sure, everybody holds she does not get lashes. Is a machlekes in terms of is there any prohibition at all with a concubine, whether to a king or to a regular person? That and it would seem that the Tur and the Rosh hold that even the Rambam, what he's talking about, is not really that there's a prohibition, but it's more that the prohibition is the fact that it's not a publicized thing, that we're worried that she go to the mikveh. That's more the issue. Chelkas mechayik uben mumar of v'chein mumar nasim umeres, and so too a heretic who married a hereticess. I'm not sure what the female version of a heretic is. A she heretic. Hama, I'm an ayin begufa chuvis. Somebody who studies the different response on this. And specifically the words of the Trumas Adeshan. The Talinon Tam, that the reason that we give for this is since they took themselves out of the general, meaning of the general public, they took themselves out of the Jewish public, the Jewish community, so to speak, through all the Avedis, by transgressing all the prohibitions in the Torah. So it must be talking about there a heretic that's willingly a heretic. What's the Beis
The Ilasnus.
Oh, very good. Yeah, that
Maybe.
makes sense. Yeah, that's certainly.
And then Uva Hafkira.
Yeah, Ovef Keda. So basically, he's a person who since he willingly transgresses everything in the Torah, so he has no problem with relations that are of harlotry, and in being loose. He goes in a loose way. Hazman, which interestingly, if you remember, we had this before when it came to what was it about? It had to do with it had to do with the fact that a heretic is like a goy when it comes to trusting him about for naguna, saying that somebody's husband died. Remember when we had the same sugya that's talking about and we also said that there was another place that also spoke about the fact that those who are forced to be heretics are careful to marry Jews. So there was this idea comes up. So, however, people who are forced with the times, meaning they're converted out of Judaism, not by their own will, they were forced. So if we know about them that they are keeping mitzvahs hiddenly underground, and an onus and an anusa, right? A forced convert marries a forced convertess, and they married for the sake of being together, being married. By this has a great amount of even though we don't necessarily have anusim in the terms of that people are forcing them to convert, but you also have people who essentially find 3 generations ago they were they couldn't
right. Well,
but they don't deny the laws and things like this. So these things could these ideas could come into play these days. Even though they got married according to the laws of the non-Jews, right? They got they got married by the county court. We have to answer well and specifically according to the Trumas Adeshin, in Loi Nemer Devadi Yosef Bilosi Bilaznus. Unless he meaning would be a big question of does it still stand unless he specifically said, or I guess implied in a very specific way, that the relationship he's having with her is a bilaznus, a harlot like relationship, meaning with no intent of being together. That these ones they came together before many forced converts for the sake of marriage. And therefore all the reasons that are given in the Tumas Hadeshin, they don't apply here. Meaning the reason that since they're a heretic, we have to that we automatically assume that their intent is not for the purpose of marriage, but rather for the purpose of harlotry. So this is talking only when when they're willing, when they are or forced. Then, and especially if we know that they hiddenly keep Torah mitzvahs, but just obviously they can't do a chuppah in that because that would out them. And of course, and even more so if they're careful in the laws of nida, of impurities, and in going to a mikveh that purifies. This is one of the reasons that the Rivash writes. Right? One of the reasons that Rivash writes that there's no kedushin in that is because of mikveh. Al kain lemaisa ein la hakol beisur eishes ish chalila. Therefore, you have to be very careful. Meaning, what they're saying is that so there's a possibility in all these cases that now remember it could, even though it could be we would make them get married again and have a proper kedushin and all that, right? However, being that their relationship was that they intended to be this comes into play. This comes into play a lot these days. You have a couple, right? They're a Jewish couple. They get married, and they what's it called? And then later they become Bali Tshuva. So okay, fine. If they want to stay together, you would have them do kiddushin. If they want to go their separate ways, there's a shaila they would have to get a get because it's possible that since they intended to be together, that their relations was not bilaznus. It was not simply like relations with a harlot, and it could be she's considered an Eishes Isha, the wife, a person's wife, which is a very stringent thing. So this is something you should not be lax in, or tread too lightly. V'chein mumar, says the Beis Shmuel, writes dafke mumar l'ritzaynei. Specifically, one who's willing. Aval onus shenosa anusa, misham betzina das Yehudis, but a forced convert who marries a forced convertess. I don't know if that's a real word. And they keep hidden. They keep the Jewish religion. Ein lahakel. Then you cannot be lenient, right? What does meaning lenient mean? Meaning as to allow them to, when they come back, as to allow them to just go on their own merry way without getting a divorce, without getting a get, because the kivin denisachtu being that they came together before other forced converts, and for the sake of getting married, it's considered like a proper marriage of sorts, and therefore they would have to get a get. Okay, base and mechaber. You read base and mechaber.
Yeah, im hitnes isha l'chuppah. So if he brings his wife, bring a guy, brings a woman to the chuppah, a wife to the chuppah. Ein miskadeshes begach, meaning, I guess, without proper kiddush, without proper betrothal. Yesh emrim shehu, they're not married, I guess.
Right.
And then yesh emrim shehu suffik, but some say that maybe they are. Maybe so. Basically, you came to a chuppah, but you didn't do the kedushin properly.
Right.
Then okay, not married. But some say no, it's maybe they are, so they would still need a get. I guess.
Right. So because anytime there's a suffix, in this case, you would have to be stringent, because if you let her go without a get, and she's possibly
Suffik moms.
still a married woman, now somebody else comes along and
That's a big
marries
deraisa.
her or whatever, and you got a
Ish.
problem. Yeah. Okay. Gimel.
Misha niskadsha nechshavas ki ish. So a woman who is betrothed is considered like a married woman. L'chayiv haba ala, meaning if someone would sleep with her, they're guilty of adultery. Excuse me. Tzricha get lahatir l'shuk, and she would need a um a get to go to be permitted for the streets. What's interesting, by the way,
To be back in the market. They
to be
say she's
back
in
in
the
the street.
market.
Yeah, she's for the streets. No, what's interesting, I want to say something quickly on this. The Sepharia that I'm reading this off of, it translates in order to marry another man. And that's actually a big mistake. And I'll say why. Because I remember Rabbi Ferris tells the story of when he first came in the early years on shlichus. There was a couple, for whatever reason, they were in Northern California and they were in the process of getting a get. So the Rav who was handling their get said, okay, you're going to handle the giving of the get because it needs to happen. Whatever reason, I don't know all the details of why, but basically he handled it and he went through it, and then afterwards he was talking to the Rav and I said, okay, tell me exactly what you did and what you said. I want to make sure that it was kosher. And so he said, okay. So he gave it the get, and then I said, okay, the line that it says that you're supposed to say, which is now you're free to marry any man. And the Rav said, what did you just do? You just messed up. We've been negotiating this get giving for so long. You just messed the whole thing up. Why? What did he do wrong? Because he said you're free to marry another man. It's not the line. The line is you're free. You're free to do whatever.
You're
Meaning
free to be
when the
single. You're free
separation,
to, yeah.
when the get happens, it has to
Oh,
be complete,
it has to be
meaning unconditional.
right.
To say in order to marry another
You're
man,
right, but
that's conditional.
only if you marry another man, right?
The break has to be complete. It's like it's. I think it also affects bechlal our mindsets of what's a healthy break, meaning you have to totally let go. Can't keep holding on to things. When you break, if it's you're on or you're off, it has to be you're on.
Right.
That means you're in all the way. You're off all the way. There's no middle ground. You're with somebody. It has to be with kedushin and chuppah, kedushin, etc. Chas v'shalom, someone's off, then it's total break. She's free for the streets. Lahatira l'shuk. She's free for the
Yeah.
market.
Right.
I don't know. I find that
For the
very
open market, yeah. So now, Dalit, I think we can actually. It's not so long. I
okay.
think we'll be able to finish this.
Yeah. So the woman is betrothed in three ways: with money, with a star, a document, a contract, or with relations. Menatera, that's the Raisa. But the rabbi said, whoa, you can't be sleeping together to make a woman your wife. This is improper. Because or and if the guy went and did it, so makir I say whoosh, they give him patch. The rabbis give him lashes. Makas mardos he mikudeshes, but she is betrothed.
Right.
She is still mikudeshes.
Yeah.
So even if he already gave her money, with something valuable or with a contract, im loy shidduch tchila, if they didn't arrange that they should get married. They didn't previously discuss this. They didn't agree to this. Oh, she kiddush b'shuk. It was just in the streets.
Which
It's like,
which
hey, how you
which which
doing?
probably which probably which is probably part of why we do tonight.
Right, right. To show, okay, this
Tonight
is
is
them
we're
agreeing
saying
to get
okay,
married,
we are
and then they
agreeing
both
this person is agreeing to take her, and right, yeah.
and they lift something of value to take on. I'm taking on the achrayis to lift a gartel or yarmulke or something. I'm taking on the achrayis to do this. That's the thing. Because if you don't, if you just do it casually, you see the girl in a bar or the marketplace, and you're like, hey, you look cute. Why don't you marry me? That's
Right.
not appropriate either.
It's and right.
Um,
It's not.
Makan, I say, Makas
It's no way to treat a Jewish woman.
Exactly. There's no way to treat a girl that's not chivalrous, and we give him makas. But again, he mikadeshes. She's mikadesh. Haga, the Rama jumps on here and says, Yeshemrim, the others say she ain't makin, im kiddush because of a b'shtar, if you b'shuk, uvalei shiduchin. Even if there wasn't a shidduch process and there wasn't any discussion and he did it casually, he didn't sleep with her. Whatever, they made a contract, they gave her something of value. You don't have to, there are those that say, Tur b'shem Arash, that you don't give her, you don't give them, you don't give them lashes. But later, you see and in my life, I never saw anyone get lashes. Misha Kiddush B'lei Shidduchin. I never saw it happen. Anyone who gave, we
Right.
never gave them lashes.
Okay, base Shmuel.
It's already
Minat
11
Teda.
o'clock. Okay, so
Yeah, it's a short one. Minat
go
Teda.
quick here.
What was Minat Teda? Oh, that from Minat Teda we said it could be either money or star or bia. Kosovo Rambam Reishul Chesishus Kesef Uhumdiri Seifim. But the Rambam, however, the Rambam holds that with money is from the sages. Because of Magid because of Mishnah, and the Ramon because of Mishnah, right? We call Malkim Midiraisu. It's still it is from the Torah. Ella Kol Dover Shein Mefurish Batayra Nikdir V'Seifrim. That we know by the Rambam. There's a third category. There's laws from that he counts among the 613. And then, for example, there's laws that are midairaisa, but since it's not specifically said in the Torah, even though it's actually a biblical law, but he doesn't count them among the actual things. So this is similar. Avol dinakid in Torah. However, it is a biblical commandment in every way. Furthermore, then hey, tur b'shem harash came to Sakarash Pegram Gamliel. The Rosh also passed in this way in Pegram Gamliel. And Yavamis Beis Yosef Hevi Dvar B'Sim Kuflam Dalid, and the Beis Yosef, the Mechaber brings his words there in 134. B'Simin Zeh Ishmitalei, but the Mechaber does not say this here. L'chein Kosav the Einim Muchach Darash V'Lekin. And therefore, he wrote that it's not the lav. It's lav dafke that the Rosh holds that way, because if so, why did the Mechaber leave it out here? And that is the end of Simin Chavav. And we'll continue with Simin Chav Zayin on the next time.